Hey, everybody, welcome to the Unshackled Moms Alliance. I am so incredibly excited about what we are going to talk about today. So, as you all know, I'm really fascinated about the human body and all the different things that happen. And who knew that your gut has to do with your emotions and it has so many other different ways that communicates to the rest of your body. So, we are going to talk about it today because I'm fascinated about it. And if I'm fascinated about it, I'm sure you all are too. Make sure that you hit the like button and the subscribe so you can get more videos just like this. This is actually going to be a trilogy. So we're talking today, and then we have another one in another month or so, and then we have another one, hormones, after the first of the year. So we have all kinds of exciting things happening today. But today I just would like to welcome Theresa to our show. Welcome,
Hello.
Theresa.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so excited. Okay, so let's get to it and dive right in.
All
So
right.
your story is one of many moms can relate to. Exhaustion, anxiety, and that sense of just trying to get through the day. I think every mom can relate to that. Can you take us back to what life looked like when you were in the constant state of survival? What did hitting the wall look like to you? And that moment when you just knew something has to change?
Yeah, absolutely. So, 2017, I had just moved to Colorado with my now ex-husband, but at the time he was my husband. We had decided to up and move from our home in Clarksville to Colorado to be closer to my family. And I don't know, I've never been particularly good as like a homemaker, but there was something about that move that just put me at my absolute limit. I was over the top stressed out. I was overwhelmed and I basically stopped functioning. I was like essentially catatonic. I would skip out on school dates. I wouldn't go to events that my kids had. I would ignore play dates like they weren't even happening. And as a result, my kids suffered. It was probably some of my darkest days. I was severely anxious. I had severe depression. And I didn't even know how to get through the day. I was a stay-at-home mom, and it was just like trying to climb up a mountain, pushing a gigantic boulder in front of me, and the boulder would just get bigger and bigger and bigger. Like I would piles of laundry would reduce me to tears. Trying to figure out dinner would, same. So it was really probably one of the worst times of my life. Um, it was and then I found out part of it was that I was an undiagnosed ADHD person, I guess. So I was sitting here and I was trying to fix my life with all of these tools and tips that neurotypical people use, and they were failing me, and I just thought that I was broken. I thought there was something wrong with me.
Yeah.
um and it was terrible.
Yeah, no kidding. So I think that there are a lot of women who do that. I think that, we sometimes flippantly say, moms stay at home eating bonbons and watching soap operas. But, you wonder how much of that connection really has to do with depression and some other
Yeah.
things, like I cannot get off the couch. So
Hmm.
I'm going to binge watch Housewives or I'm going to binge watch whatever I'm going to binge watch and eat all the kids' Halloween candy or like whatever it is, right? And just to like kind of get through the day. And
Yeah.
then it's like, crap, what's dinner? What are we going to do? Right. And I think that that is also true of those working moms who are just like, let me just get through the day. I'll do whatever I have to do to cope. And then I come home, I have to put the kids to bed, eat dinner, do whatever, take care of the partner if there is one. And then I just crash for 6 hours and then I get up and do it again the next day. And it's just like this vicious cycle that just keeps going and going.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember my best coping mechanism was complete dissociation. I would turn on a movie for my kids and I would scroll my phone and I would look at all these other people whose lives were perfect. And it's all social media,
Right.
shenanigans. It's
Yeah,
not,
exactly.
but at the time, I was just comparing myself to these people and it was just like, no, that's not real. But again, hindsight, I can look and see that. But it was dissociation. And then I actually had the opportunity to experience the other side of that because my husband at the time, he got injured and he couldn't work anymore. So we had a little bit of time where we were on his like severance pay and then I had to get a job, which I hadn't worked for 10 years. I'd been a
Oh
stay-at-home
my
mom since I
goodness.
got out of the army in 2010.
Right.
And so then I was and he was injured, so he couldn't do a whole lot during the day. So I would wake up at 5 o'clock to get to work by 6. I would get off around 3, pick up my oldest son from school, and then I would get home, and sometimes dinner would be, something, but for the most part, a lot of it fell to me. I was responsible for grocery shopping. I was responsible for the laundry, and I wasn't doing any of it. It was
Yes.
so bad.
Yeah, yeah,
But I know that I'm not the only one who has suffered with this, because I have friends now and I have people that I've worked with that are just experiencing this on the daily. And until we find out that this is actually normal, we feel so isolated and
yeah,
alone. And so that's one of the things that I want to change, but not just that. It's like there are small things that we can do. Like they're not huge changes, huge transformations. Little steps here and there will make a shift that is mind-blowing when you
yeah,
look back and see how far you've come.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, okay, so can you tell us what happened to you back in the day
Mhm.
before you discovered everything that you know? So, what happened when you cut out sugar, and how did that change lead to a much deeper realization of that about your health and your emotions?
Yeah, so it was kind of interesting. I got a cavity, a really really bad cavity, and the sweetest thing that I could eat was a graham cracker. Like anything past graham cracker level sweetness, which they're not that sweet, I was in excruciating pain. So I cut out sugar. It was kind of unintentional. It was just like you can't eat something that causes you that much pain. It just doesn't make any
Yeah,
sense, right? Um, so I cut out sugar, and I was eating more soft foods than anything, but really it was just the amount of processed foods that contain a lot of sugar that I was consuming at that point in time was,
yeah,
I mean, put yourself in that situation. What's the easiest thing to do? You're going to go get dinner. Well, when you get dinner, you're probably going to get a soda, and you're probably, maybe you get a milkshake, and whatever else you're going to get.
yep,
Um, when I cut out the sugar, I ended up having to cut out a lot of those processed foods too.
yep,
And the things that I was dealing with, the sort of the frozenness of my life, the way that I painted a picture. It wasn't good, so I ended up throwing it away. But it was again, and also, like I said, was not good. But it was these portions of my life. I had work over here, I had my kids over here, I had my husband over here, and I had my hobbies up here, and everything in between it was this gray cloud, and it was just infiltrating everything. But they were all separated because there was no connection, because the fog in my brain was so severe. And call that depression, call that anxiety. It was both, but it was also just they call it brain fog.
yep,
And when I cut out the processed sugar, or the processed foods and the sugar, a lot of that started to dissipate. And I could start to see the tendrils of connection that each of those places had. And I was able to combine areas of my life that I had previously not been able to combine before. It was fantastic. It was phenomenal. And it kind of led me to this like sort of aha moment of like, okay, so if I cut out these things and I feel like this, what else can I do? What else can I change? What else can I shift?
yeah,
And it would be interesting because I eventually got the cavity filled and ended up getting a root canal, which is a whole nother topic that we don't need to go in right now.
right,
But I ended up getting a root canal. And so I was able to go back to eating whatever the heck I wanted.
right,
And within days, less than that, within an hour of, eating my first milkshake or whatever, I could feel how different my body was, and I was like, "Okay, this is something that I'm actually noticing." Like, I'm putting these pieces together. I see how this is connected. What I'm putting into my body is directly connected to how I feel. I mean, surprise, it's not really that surprising, but it never occurred to me before.
right.
So, but yeah, so it was
Well, I
just
think
that.
that too often we are told that's normal, right? It's
Yeah.
normal to feel that way. It's normal to have that brain fog. It's normal to, and sometimes I think it just sneaks up on you
Mhm.
because you have a baby, you're tired, you do whatever, you go back to work, it's like, and you just go, okay, well, I'm just dealing with a baby. And then like, it just like snowballs a little bit until you
Mhm.
go, whoa, wait a minute. I have
Yeah.
all this stuff, that is overpowering me, and it's not normal.
Right. Yeah, it is. And they do. The things that are normalized that we don't have to suffer. Like our lives can be simple and straightforward,
Yeah.
but the way that we are conditioned to think and believe, it is just we're fighting a losing battle until you know how to not.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you said that healing really begins when you stop fighting your brain and body and started working with them, which is kind
Yes.
of like you alluded to a little bit, but tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so that was really significant, especially with my ADHD diagnosis, because I had been trying to implement these systems into my life that should have worked. And unfortunately, I can't think of a single one of them right now because they brain dumped them the second that I realized that that was the thing. But
Right.
um, so instead of trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, I
Yeah.
realized that the way that I function isn't wrong. It's not broken. I'm not
Yeah.
failing. I'm just it's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. So I learned some specific tips. I started journaling, and it was really
Mhm.
interesting because as I wrote things down, some of the mind clutter disappeared. Like once it was on paper, I started carrying. I had this little one of those little tiny flip notebooks that fit in my back pocket. And if I had a thought, I was like, I know I'm going to forget this thought. I would write it down. And then at the end of every day, I would set an alarm on my phone. I live by the alarms on my phone. Alarms, my
Yeah.
Google Calendar, things like that. All of those things are like if I'm gonna do it, it's gotta be an alarm. It's gotta be something to remind me, like external stimulation. So I'd spend 5 minutes every day looking back on what I had written down in my notebook, and if it wasn't relevant, I would wait until the next day. But so I started writing things down. I started doing sort of simple things like setting out my clothes for the next day the night before. And this kind of goes into, you sort of touched on it briefly, the spoon theory. And I don't know if you want me to get into that right now or if you want me to wait
Sure.
until, okay. So the spoon theory I don't remember who coined it. There's a video on my Instagram that talks a little bit more in depth about it, but it's essentially the idea that we wake up every day with a certain number of spoons, and a spoon is we can expend a certain amount of energy and effort depending on which spoon or like how many spoons that we have. So each task or item on our to-do list that we have to do requires a spoon. Now, most people, they have unlimited spoons. But if you're fighting with an invisible illness, whether it be a mental challenge or, something like Crohn's or PCOS, where it's inside of you and you just feel a certain way, you only have a certain number of spoons. So say you wake up in the morning and you have six. You have six spoons. Brushing your teeth takes half a spoon. Putting makeup on takes a quarter of a spoon. So each activity that you do requires or limits the number of spoons that you have to do the rest of the things. So say you have to take your kids to a field trip or you have to go to work, and when you're at work, how many spoons does that require? And so it's just this way of explaining the the way that certain pieces of energy I'm sorry, certain activities drain our energy that I hate to use the word normal people, but for lack of better terms, normal people don't have the same struggles, and so they see a relatively normal looking human being. I should be able to wake up and, do my hair and put makeup on my face and eat breakfast and make my kids breakfast and go and take them to school and then get to work and then do all the tasks and then get like those things are, yes, stressful, but like why is it that at the end of the day I'm literally catatonic on the floor like I don't know how to exist anymore.
Yeah.
It's so that's kind of this the spoons. And doing things like laying out my clothes the night before removed some of the spoons that I had to expend first thing in the morning. Because one thing that I also realize is that as the day progresses, if I take care of myself, the spoons can regenerate. Now that's not the case for everybody, but um it was things like that, just these small little shifts in habits that allowed me to make it through the day with a little bit less stress and overwhelm.
I love that. I love that so much. So let's shift gears a little bit and let's talk about food as information, not just
Mm.
fuel.
Okay.
So you've said before that food is like information to our bodies. It tells systems what to do. Can you explain that a little bit more? And then, how does the food that we eat actually talk to our brain and our nervous system?
Yeah, so our gut, they refer to your gut as your second brain, right? It's full of bacteria and microbes, and there are nerves that connect your gut directly to your brain. Now, you've got your proteins. Proteins are, aminos, and aminos help to build muscle, but also influence how your hormones work and things like that. Fiber is going to allow your body to bulk and eliminate toxins properly. So all of the things that we put into our body, there is a function to it. Now, when you fill your body with sugar or highly processed foods, now they're not all bad. But if you're filling your body with highly processed foods, sugar is a highly processed food, it doesn't communicate when it goes into your gut, it doesn't send the signals to your brain that I'm being nourished. It can't, because it's frankenfood. It's not sustainable to eat in that way. We end up, eating, wanting to eat more. We stay hungry longer, or we eat. Have you ever eaten a meal and then 30 minutes later been like, "Gosh, I'm hungry again, and I ate so much." Like I don't, it's not necessarily that you're still hungry, it's that you haven't received the nourishment that your body desires. And digestion starts on your tongue. As you're chewing your food, that starts to send signals to your digestive system. Hey, this is, the way that I think of it is like, hey, this is what we're eating. So send out these enzymes to digest these specific items. And then from there, your body can actually process it. But when you're eating highly processed foods or foods that don't agree with you. If you have celiac disease and you still eat gluten, or if you have lactose intolerance and you still eat dairy, those things are going to send signals to your body, and that's going to just create inflammation and just cause you to feel achy or ill or bloated or whatever else. And our brain, or I'm sorry, our gut communicating with our brain, like I think it's something like 60% of serotonin in our body is produced in the gut, and that's our happy chemical. Like we need that. So if you're dealing
Yeah.
with anxiety or depression and your gut is struggling because either you're not feeding it well, or you have a misbalance of pre and probiotics and things like that, it's a recipe for disaster, and it just kind of builds and builds and builds and builds until eventually you're at the point where I was, and you're just like, I don't know what to do.
Can you share a little bit more in depth with us about that? Um, pretend like we have no idea exactly what serotonin does in our body, right?
Okay.
And why is that important? And what does it do if I'm depressed, or like what are some things that maybe I can feel like if serotonin boosts in, how that's going to change how I feel overall?
Yeah. So our brain is, our body and our brain, it's full of chemicals. They're always talking to each other. And we require certain chemicals to feed the others, essentially. And if we are lacking in a nutrient that produces a chemical that our brain needs, I guess essentially just think about it as like you have a bunch of little. Have you seen the movie Inside Out?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so we have each of those characters, right? You have joy, you have anger, you have sadness, and then as it progresses, you get more characters and things like that. Imagine if each of those characters required a different type of nutrient or protein or whatever in order for them to function properly. So the happy chemicals, the ones that allow joy to come out and express herself, the chemicals that make you more anxious, or your cortisol when it spikes, and When you start to get frustrated or angry, like depending on what you feed your body, all of those little, critters or characters in your brain are going to be nourished in a different way, which is going to allow them to either, come out or, fall back into themselves. So does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
and is protein what serotonin needs?
No, so gosh, this is actually an area where I would love to learn more about in specific.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, I haven't had the opportunity to dive deep into that, but I do know that our bodies require protein in order to build muscle, to create hormones,
yep.
and things like that. So it's not so much that serotonin is built by protein, but happy gut bacteria will allow those chemicals to be built and created within your system. If you
Love
have
that.
IBS or if you have, SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, there are certain things that are going to make it so that your intestines cannot properly absorb the nutrients, and th- as a result, your body can't create the hormones that are needed to secrete the chemicals in your brain and things like that.
So, I am a mom at home, and I am that person we talked about earlier, right? I'm
Uh-huh.
on that hamster wheel. Things are going, and I just am not like I just have not felt like myself for such a long time. Can you give me maybe 3 things that I can do, that will build those prebiotics and probiotics up in my system, or maybe something else
Yeah.
to feel better?
So one of the most important things to know, something like 97% on the studies of the human body have been performed on males. So it has been only in the recent past that research has been done specifically for women. So I know that we're going to get to this in our last podcast episode, but your hormones play a huge role throughout the month in how you digest food and what type of food to digest. And there's also people, you see influencers talking about you have to count your macros and you have to, count your carbs or cut carbs or whatever. Like we are complicating everything to a degree that it is so overwhelming, and
Yeah,
food should be joyful. It should be an experience. It should be a positive thing. You know, if you're getting anxious because of the way that you're eating, that's not what we want. That's just gonna make the
exactly.
situation
Well, like, I
worse.
cannot take on one more thing, right? Like, I got the
Right.
kids, I got my house, I got my and now I have to count macros and do all that stuff? No.
Right. It's
So I love that
it's
you wanna simplify that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, counting your macros and weighing your food, that's really, really valuable if you have the time and the capacity to do that, but it's not necessary. What we want to focus on is we want to focus on whole foods as much as possible and crowding out the foods that don't benefit us. One of my favorite ways to do this is the 80-20 rule. So it's 80% nourishing whole foods and 20%, which gives you the opportunity to go splurge with your friends and have a couple margaritas after work, or, whatever it is that you do, an ice cream sundae party with kids. Like those things are allowed and they are perfectly acceptable. And you should participate in those types of events. Like I cannot stress enough how important it is to live your life. We have been
Yeah,
given one, and this is our opportunity to live it. So if, if for the most part you are able to eat nourishing foods, even if they're not the best. You don't need to go to Whole Foods and spend $300 on organic produce and, go home and chop it up every night. That's not necessary. It is maybe ideal, but like it's not realistic for
right.
somebody who's busy. So, um, I use a lot of frozen foods, like frozen fruits and vegetables, pre-cut. I'll go to the produce section, I'll get pre-cut stuff, and that way I just have to throw it in a pan and stir fry it up or whatever. I use a
Yep.
lot of crock pot meals, canned beans, things like that. But so the 80-20 rule is probably one of my favorites. If you're trying, if you're struggling with anything really. Just try to
Yeah,
spend most of your time getting nourishing food, whole foods, real foods. Um, the next one would probably be hydration. Uh, we as a culture are severely dehydrated. I know, my goal and my recommendation to people is usually uh, 50% of your body weight in ounces every single day. Now,
Yep.
if you're 150 pounds, that's like what, 75 ounces, I think, of water. And that's a
Yep.
lot. Like when you actually like measure that out, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to admit something to you that I probably shouldn't. I'm lucky if I get 60 ounces a day.
Yeah.
And it's not because I don't like water. I only drink water. Like I don't drink
Yep.
soda anymore. Like I've stepped away from just about everything else. I have a coffee in the morning sometimes. I've stopped the caffeine and for the most part. Um, but when we hydrate ourselves effectively, everything else in our body can work because we are water. Our bodies are made of 60% water, I think. And when we're dehydrated, our brain doesn't function as well. That was another thing that I was dealing with in the past. Was I was I was in Colorado, which is a very dry state. I was not drinking enough water. I was eating foods that made me just feel crappy.
Yeah.
So drinking water, the 80-20 rule, and then the third would probably be like when and how we eat our food, because
Okay.
both of those things matter. As far as like the how, I'm talking about, are you sitting in front of a TV while you're eating? Are you, sneaking bites in while you're sitting at your desk typing an email? Are you rushing to and from kids' events, smashing a burrito into your face as you're driving? Like all of those things are going to do you a disservice because you're not chewing, you're not paying attention. Like I said before, your digestion starts on your tongue, but if you're rushing through it and you're not giving your body adequate time to focus on what it's digesting, it can't. I mean, it'll do the best it can. Your body wants to serve you. It's its whole purpose why we were created, you know. But so what I recommend is, sitting down, taking a deep breath, chewing your food. Like, gosh, chewing your food is so important. And it's, I mentioned root canals earlier. I had 3 root canals in my teeth because of everything. I nursed my youngest until he was 3.5 years old. I was not
Yep.
eating well, and so he leached all the calcium from my body, and so I had 3 root canals. They ended up getting reinfected, so I just had them pull the teeth out.
Oh
Now it's
gosh.
a molar here and a molar here on the same tooth, bottom and top, and then a molar on my lower. So I'm missing 3 of my molars. Um, when I am eating and talking to people, I will chew a couple of bites and then I will swallow a full unchewed mouth of food and I'll be like, I can't believe that I just did that because I know without any shadow of a doubt that 30 minutes from that moment, I'm going to have the worst indigestion and terrible bloating because my body cannot digest partially chewed food. Um,
Right.
so sitting down and properly chewing your food, really just giving it a chance to like, masticate. Um, and there's a reason why prayer is one of my favorite ways to start a meal. Just
Hmm.
bless the food, thank you for the food because it really kind of sets the tone for I'm just going to eat this now and I'm going to do it calmly and relaxed. I can't actually say that. I was going to say I don't know many people who can pray and then go back to being anxious, but hello, hi, it's me. Um,
Yeah.
but it really does kind of set the tone for the meal, and assuming you don't have extenuating circumstances that can make it more challenging. So that's sort of the how. Slowly, intentionally, not while you're rushing around doing stuff. Sitting down, ideally, your body doesn't digest as well when you're standing either. Um, but then the
Totally
when.
guilty of that.
So am
Like,
I. I
I
mean,
totally eat my lunch in front of the computer, not gonna lie.
well, it's hard
I got
not
stuff to
to.
do.
So I guess what I would say to people who don't have a choice, because I know sometimes we just don't have a choice, is while you're doing that, make sure you're chewing it and just breathe
Yeah.
while you're taking a bite, take a deep breath, take a bite, chew it properly. And it'll be better than if you're just, as quickly as you can.
Well, yes, but the reality is, even in my head, I think that, this cannot wait. The reality is if I take 15 minutes to eat my food and, like, really focus on it, it's not like, "Oh my gosh, the 15 minutes of work is gonna get me that far much farther ahead," even though I think so in my brain, right? Like, it's okay to take a minute,
Yeah.
stop, chew your food, take care of your body. 15 minutes, that's all it is to really truly take care of your body, and it'll make a huge difference.
100%. Absolutely. Could not agree more. So the next piece is when you eat. So I
Mhm.
know, and again, I'm guilty of this as well. I'm better about it now than I used to be, but it would be like I would wake up in the morning, I'd get everybody else food, I would forget to feed myself, and then I would be famished and I would just shovel whatever the first thing that I saw, usually chips or crackers or something.
Yeah.
So that's unless you're fasting, which people intermittent fast, and that's great for a lot of people. They have good experiences with that, but typically as women, we want to make sure that within the first hour of waking up, we put something nourishing in our body. My favorite way to start the day is protein. I'll make myself an egg, 2 eggs, something like that. Um, but if you start your day with carbs or cereal or just acidic coffee, because I do that too. I'll wake up, I'll just drink a cup of coffee, and then that'll suppress my appetite, and then I'll just feel like crap later. Um, but as women, we really want to. It'll spike your cortisol, which is another whole topic that I could go on for hours that we don't need to focus on right this second. um, but so you want to make sure that within an hour of waking up, you put something nourishing in your body. That's not just coffee. That's not just a muffin or a bowl of cereal. Ideally protein or fiber. Um, and then
So, quick question.
Mhm.
Right now, one of the huge trends is fasting
Mhm.
to lose weight, right?
Yeah.
So, if I wake up though and I'm on that 10-hour cycle or whatever, and I'm really not supposed to eat until 10 a.m., but I'm waking up at 5:30 to go, to work or whatever. Is it healthy for me to wait that long? You're saying no, you need to eat something.
So there is a lot of conflicting information about fasting for women specifically. Again, most of the research has been done on men. So fasting and men can fast all day, every day, and they will be great. There's a guy who fasted for like 40 days straight and cured his cancer or something. Like it's like my husband can fast with no issues. And I it was actually this time last year, November, I read the book Fast, Feast, Repeat by Jen Stevens. And she talks about what's referred to as a clean fast. And the only thing that you eat or drink in your fasting window is water or black coffee. If you add anything to your coffee, you ruin your fast. You won't go into ketosis as quickly and all this stuff. So I went for 3.5 months doing clean fasting. Now, I will definitely, Jen Stevens is a very, very intelligent woman. The way that she explains it in her book is very, very helpful. Um, I was capable of clean fasting. You don't Essentially what it is if you put something else in your system, your body is going to start the digestion process and you will feel hungry and it will be more difficult to fast for longer periods of time. So it's not going to ruin anything, but it will be harder to accomplish those longer fasts. Um, I personally experienced almost no benefits. I think I fasted for, between 14 and 16 hours a day. Sometimes I went up to 18. Some days I made it to 23. I mean, there were a couple of days where I made it very, very far, or very long rather. And, um, I didn't feel bad necessarily, but I didn't experience the benefits that a lot of people experience. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not the greatest thing in the world for my sister, for example, who has been intermittent fasting for 3.5 years and will never go back to a different lifestyle.
Right.
Um, but I was going through the process and there would be days where I just felt weak and I just couldn't. Yeah, and I would push through because I gotta hit my hours.
Right.
Um, and so I was like, okay, maybe this isn't why. I mean, I guess I can't say I didn't experience any positives. I did learn that I can drink black coffee. That was cool. I did learn that I am capable. Like if I know that there's going to be a day where I can't eat a lot or I can't eat until later, I will do a clean fast leading up until when I know that I can eat, kind of thing. Um, but I read another book called Fast Like a Girl by Dr. Mindy Pels, and she's got a YouTube channel. She's got all sorts of information, and her recommendation um, she also, I mean, she loves fasting. She doesn't care as much about the clean fast as Jen Stevens does, but um, Mindy Pels, she recommends that women who are within the age of fertility, I guess. So like premenopause. Women want to be really intentional about the cycle that they're in while they're fasting. Um, it's recommended that like the week leading up to your period, you don't fast at all because your body, in order to create the progesterone that your body needs in order to have a comfortable cycle, you have to have a certain amount of carbs and fats and things like that. Um, it's just what our body needs to function properly. Um, so
Does it need it, like, throughout the day? Or if I get, like, all my carbs and my fat in the 9 hours that I'm supposed to be eating, is that, does that work?
I would say if you really want to, try it and see how it works for you. But if you
Mhm.
start to feel weak or uncomfortable or like just not quite right, eat something.
Yeah.
That's kind of my like it's everything we do is a study of one because what works for me is not going to work for you and what works for
Yep.
you is not going to work for my sister or my cousin. It's every we are all bio individual human beings. We were created in his image, but we were created in a unique way. And
Yep.
so if you want to try fasting or if anybody who's listening wants to try fasting, by all means, I recommend the clean fast. 100% of the time I recommend the clean fast. If
Yep.
you want to fast throughout the entire month, try that. But another thing that Mindy Pell says is the first like after our cycle or after our period is over and we go into the first couple of weeks, and again I'll go into some of this in our last episode, but when we're in our first couple of weeks, where estrogen is higher and everything is kind of rising up, you can fast for 72 hours without any negative impacts to your hormones. But that was the thing that I realized was happening to me, is that my hormones were getting completely out of balance and I'm still trying to recover from that. um,
Yep.
it has been so fasting can be great. Just be aware that if you aren't like if you have, issues with your menstrual cycle in any capacity, you can make them way worse if you're not careful. So maybe talk to a holistic doctor or talk to just any doctor and see what they think and maybe have them track your levels. I mean, you can get, tests for those things and have them track you while you're, different phases of your cycle, kind of go from there. But really listen to your body. If you are trying a new thing, whatever that thing may be, and it feels not amazing. Of course, there's some things, you're going to have like a Herx reaction if you're detoxing or whatever else. There are things that you will not feel great. But if you feel like, I feel like I've been doing this long enough that it should be leveling out and I should be okay, and it's not, take it back to the drawing board and see if there's something that could be adjusted or you could do differently. At this point, I'm not fasting. I want to. It seems like I can never find the time in my cycle when I don't have 800,000 other things going on or like a big meal that I have to make for somebody else. And so I'm just like, "Ugh,
Yep.
whatever." So
Yeah. Well, I think you brought up a really good point, right? Your sister works for her. She can fit into her schedule. She'll never go back. And it doesn't really, right now, it does not really work for you. And I
mhm,
think that those moms that are listening, it's the same thing, right? If you're fasting and you're having a clean fast, and if you don't know what that is, and we need to be looking that up, then, do that if that's working for you. But don't beat yourself up if it doesn't. Just
exactly.
because so many people have so much great experience doesn't mean that your body will. And you have to find what works for you and your body.
Yep.
Going back to that whole foods piece and going back to that, 80/20 things that you were talking about. All those things are so important.
Yeah. And I know my mentor, she can't eat broccoli. She can't eat it. Broccoli is one of my favorite foods. I would eat broccoli every single day for my entire life. I found a roasted broccoli recipe and I could eat it forever. It's so good. But she can't eat broccoli. When she eats it, she gets sick. I know other people who can't eat avocados. It's like everybody is going to have something that works for them and something that doesn't work for them. And
Mhm.
another really important thing is your level of stress, because you could eat all the broccoli in the world, but if you hate your job or you have, 800 million things that you have to do every day and you're stressed and overwhelmed, it doesn't matter how well you eat because your body is going to, it's never going to be able to get yourself into the rest and digest phase.
Yeah, it's in
So,
that constant fight or flight.
Yep.
So your brain is doing other things rather than focusing on digestion.
Yep, exactly. And that's I think that our next episode we're going to be specifically talking about nervous system regulation and things like that, which is
Yep.
another huge. I mean, there are essentially three factors that went into my downfall in 2017. And it was, I mean, there's a lot leading up to that, but it was my nutrition, it was my nervous system, and it was my hormones. And
Yeah.
those three things are the pillars in my experience that have something to do with everybody's dis-ease, discomfort.
Yeah. Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about blood sugar and emotional roller coasters,
Mhm.
right? So I've heard that blood sugar spikes and crashes and it can mimic anxiety. Can you explain that connection and then how skipping meals, too much sugar or caffeine can mess with your mood and focus?
Yeah, so really it's when the first thing that your body when the first, nutrient that your body receives is sugar or, carbs, which turn into sugar. It doesn't it, sugar it, our body f- our body's energy source is carbohydrates. It is the easiest, quickest way for us to get a boost of energy. And we use energy for everything, for our brain function, for our activity levels, for everything that we do, we require energy. So when we use, you know, simple carbs and things that turn into sugars quickly and then are used up quickly, we go, we'll go up really high and then we'll just crash right back down. So, a lot of
Yep.
people will, have a big lunch, and then by, 2 o'clock, they are ready for a nap. Or, if you have, if you have kids and, they go out and they have a birthday party and they eat a bunch of cake, couple hours later, they're going to crash down and either throw a huge temper tantrum because they don't know how to explain what's going on in their body, or they're just going to fall asleep.
Yep.
Um, so it's the simple carbs that really cause the biggest negative impact on our bodies. Now again, 80/20 rule, like you don't have to get rid of them entirely. The way that I like to do it is what can I add to this to make it work for my body better? So it's things like, if you're going to have a bagel, don't just eat the bagel don't just eat the bagel. Make sure you put some cream cheese on it, some butter, put some protein or fat in with the carbohydrates that you're eating, and that'll help your body digest it better. You also want to make sure that you're eating fiber. So if you have, say you have a plate in front of you and you have spaghetti over here, and you can't see my hands, so maybe I'll do it up here. You have spaghetti over here, and you have a salad right here, and then you have, I don't know, a potato. I don't know why you would have potato and spaghettis in the same meal, but here we are. Um, you got meat sauce on the spaghetti, you got a potato, and you got your salad. If you eat that salad first, it's going to start you off with fiber, and so you're going to be able to better digest the potato and the spaghetti because it's going to slow down that digestion. Whereas if you eat the potato first or the spaghetti first, it's essentially like if you were to take, and this is kind of a weird analogy because it only kind of works if you don't think about it too hard. If you had a sink and you have a drain and you throw a bunch of, leaves and sticks into the sink, and then you throw a bunch of, I don't know, dirt or sand into the sink, the leaves and sticks will slow down the filtering of the dirt and the sand so it doesn't clog up your pipe. Whereas if you put the
Yeah.
dirt and the sand in first and then put the leaves and the sticks in, the leaves and sticks are just going to sit there. They
Yeah.
can't properly go down. And so you want to make sure that if you're trying to avoid blood sugar spikes, that you incorporate things that are going to help you digest the things that'll cause the blood sugar spikes in order to avoid that. A glass of juice in the morning, eat some eggs and protein first and then drink your glass of juice. Don't drink the glass of juice. I have completely changed the way that I send my kids off to school. It used to be like, fend for yourself, find a bowl of cereal. I don't care. Go eat something. And now it's like, I'm going to make you eggs and I'm going to make you some sausage links and you're going to eat those. If you want some juice, by all means. If you want a piece of toast, that's fine. We're going to eat protein and we're going to make sure that you have, they'll eat overnight oats a lot. There's a controversy about oatmeal, but I'm doing the best I can with what I got. So,
Yeah.
so they eat a
Exactly.
lot of overnight oats, and I just make sure that while there is chocolate chips and they do put maple syrup in their oats, I know that the fiber in the oatmeal is going to help slow down the metabolization of those sugars and give them a little bit more sustained energy throughout the day. But they've even noticed it. Now my kids are so stubborn. Every single time that I try to talk to them about health or wellness or anything like that, they roll their eyes and they say, "Mom." And I'm like, "Your mom's a health coach. What do you expect?"
Yes.
But they have even gotten to the point where if I say it's cereal for breakfast, they're like, "No, I can't do cereal for breakfast. I'm gonna be hungry in 30 minutes." And I'm like, "Yes, something is getting
Yeah.
through to you." I love it so much.
They're
Um,
listening, yes.
and they are. They pretend like they're not, but they sure do hear me. So, but yeah, it's really just about adding in the things that are going to help you. Let me rephrase that. It's not about eliminating. You don't have to get rid of the cereal. You don't have to get rid of the juice. You don't have to stop eating toast. You just want to add something to go alongside of it so that it actually gives you something to sustain yourself throughout the day.
So like a protein or a fat
Correct. Or fiber. Fiber is great too.
or fiber. Okay. Okay. So can you give us some um examples of exchanging a simple carb for a complex carb?
Yeah.
If I want to get more complex carbs, what are some simple things that I can do?
Yeah, so there's the kind of obvious ones, things like white rice versus brown rice, or even
Mhm.
I think even better than brown rice is like the black rice and the more like I guess exotic types of rice. Because if you rinse those and you soak them a little bit and you chew them up really good, those are so good. Um, Instead of getting white bread. Um, get, the Dave's Killer bread or like the seeded breads, things like that that have some meat to them, not actual meat, but have some substance to
Right.
them.
Yeah.
I essentially avoid any breaded item that is not brown.
Yeah.
With the exception of sourdough, because the way that sourdough is made, it the fermentation process in sourdough consumes some of the gluten molecule, and so it actually is, like, one of my favorite things to eat because it doesn't I love bread, but sourdough doesn't trigger my sensitivities in the way that a regular piece of, like, honey wheat bread, for example, would. Now, I know everyone, budgets vary, and even bread is getting to the point where it's expensive, so if you can't if all that you can afford is the white bread or the more processed type. Again, just add some kind of a healthy protein, or a butter or avocado, avocado toast. Even avocado toast on a piece of white bread is going to be better than just a piece of white bread by itself. Um, Pasta, they have one of the things that I love about being in the field that I'm in as the world is changing and evolving is that there are so many new types and varieties of things out there. So we have, there's like chickpea pasta now, and there's lentil pasta, and there's like all of these things that create, and lentils and beans have so much protein. They're so wonderful. I love them so much. And so not only do you get to eat your pasta, but you get protein with it as well. And so, so that, yeah, I would, so let's see, bread, seeded bread or sprouted bread, or, sourdough over your basic white, brown or fancy rice over just your regular white rice. And then, um, potatoes, I guess, pasta, chickpea versus, protein pasta versus just
Yeah.
your plain starchy or whole wheat. Now I know the textural thing, like some kids really just can't get past the texture of the different pastas, but again, do what you can. And then potatoes. I used to hate sweet potatoes. I used to loathe sweet potatoes, but they have, they're so much more nutrient dense than just your average white potatoes. So if you can add in some sweet potatoes here and there, or add some cauliflower. Like if you're making mashed potatoes, mash up some cauliflower. And as long as the ratio is not too high, you can get away with that without many people noticing.
I love sweet potatoes. Okay,
Mhm.
let's shift gears just a little bit and let's talk
Okay.
about inflammation and
Okay.
your mood. So we usually think of inflammation as something that affects our joints or skin, but it can also affect our mood, right? So how
Mhm.
does inflammation from food or stress really actually trigger anxiety and depression? And what are a few foods or habits that can calm inflation and start helping women feel clearer and calmer more quickly?
Yeah. So inflammation is it's exactly like you said. A lot of people think that it's just joint pain and muscle pain, but it is actually prevalent in every part of your body. If you are eating foods that your body can't process or doesn't know how to process or that cause a reaction, you know, like a lot of people don't know that they have lactose intolerance or celiac. When you eat those foods, it can cause inflammation in your gut. It can cause inflammation in your other organs. And when you have inflammation in your gut, essentially your gut is you have like your gut lining right here, and then you have what's called tight junctures, and they should be closed like this. But when your gut becomes inflamed, they'll spread out or they'll, you know, tear or whatever else. And food particles can get through that into your bloodstream. And that is inflammation of the gut. It can cause irritable bowel syndrome. It can cause it can cause a lot of problems. um,
Yeah,
s- yeah. So as far as how you can treat that, one of the best and also maybe one of the most challenging things can be to do some kind of an elimination diet. Because the only way to truly get rid of inflammation in your digestive system is to stop inflaming it.
yeah,
And if you just do, you know, say, you know, for me, for example, like I love bread, I love cheese, I have sensitivities to both of those things. So when I am having, you know, there's a birthday party or, you know, we have a potluck and I eat a bunch of really bad food and we have we have people over every Saturday for church and I eat a lot of food that I really know better that I shouldn't eat. And so depending on how my 80/20 is looking, there will be periods of time where I will be inflamed and uncomfortable and just miserable. I'll get gassy, I'll get bloated. And again, gut is your second brain. So during those times, I also have terrible brain fog. My anxiety will ramp up. I've kicked the depression. Like that's long gone. Thank God. Um, but we want to make sure that the foods that we're eating aren't causing you know, more challenges in our gut. So the best way to do that is to cut them out. Now, again, that can be very, very difficult, especially if you have kids and you are used to making a certain number of things. You know, if you're a pasta and you know grilled cheese sandwiches or quesadillas or whatever, you know, taco night, and you put cheese and sour cream on your tortilla. It's like, well, how do I make food for my family and not eat it. You know,
yeah,
like, am I
yeah.
supposed to eat a salad bowl instead of my regular tacos? Like, I don't, you know, so
Not
I mean,
very
yes, but
fun.
right. But the best thing to do is to find out what it is that's triggering. And, you know, say maybe you just have a gluten sensitivity and you're fine with dairy and you're fine with, you know, nightshade vegetables, you know, peppers and onions and things like that. Some people have sensitivities that, and there are people who have to go on a low FODMAP diet and cut out everything. And
Yeah.
I have yet to be put in a situation where I have, you know, I've coached people through a number of different things. That is one that I have not yet had the experience. I'd love to. So hey, you know, come on. Um, but it's really just about finding out what it is that causes your discomfort, cut that out for a little while, see how much better you feel. You know, really the best thing to do would be to go on like a full elimination diet where you only eat safe foods for a little while. You know, a month usually does it. But again, with kids, with life, that can be really challenging. So, getting help, getting somebody who can coach you through that, give you the accountability, um, that has been what I have seen work successfully in the past. And really just making sure that you have a solid probiotic. And if you like fermented foods like kimchi and sauerkraut, like eat them. You know, don't if
Yeah.
they work for you, because some people can't eat those either, you know. So it's
Right.
but you want to make sure that you're
I'm a kombucha
nourishing.
girl. I drink kombucha all
I
the time.
love kombucha. My husband bought me a kombucha making kit for my birthday last year, and I made 3 very good batches, and then I forgot about it, and I haven't made a single one since then. But it is, I really like
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
Um,
In fact, I have trained my boys are so well trained in kombucha. So they don't drink it on a regular basis, but they know like as soon as any type of in intestinal issues happen or you
Mhm.
feel like you're gonna throw up, you know, oh, we gotta get kombucha. In
Yep.
fact, my youngest girlfriend, we were on a little vacation and she started to get sick. He's like, "Oh, we're stopping by the store. You're getting some kombucha." And he's like in the back seat, he's like, "I know it does not taste that great, but you need to drink this. This will make you feel better so fast."
That's wonderful. I wanna learn,
So you have so much amazing information. Can you tell us just a little bit in closing, like what do you, how can I work with you? If I like, I'm listening to this and I'm like, oh my gosh, she has hit every single place that I am right now. I need to talk to her. I need to work with her. We obviously will put links, we'll put your Instagram, all that stuff in the description. But tell us a little bit about you and how I can work with you.
Yeah, so I only work with people who really want what I'm offering. You know, I've tried working with people who only kind of wanted it and that didn't work out very well. So usually the first thing that I do is I do a sort of like an interview with any potential clients and I find out where they're
Yep.
at, what they're looking to accomplish, and if we're a right fit. You know, sometimes I'll find somebody who is I've had people who have called me and they're like, "Oh, I don't need any accountability. I don't need any really help." And I'm like, okay, well, great talking to you. So I don't really
Yeah.
know what to do with that. But I always want to make sure that they were a good fit and that I have something that I can offer them. Um, so
I
if
love that
they
because it is that shows such integrity, right?
Mm,
It's not like I'm here to just sell you whatever.
oh,
I want to
definitely
see if we're
not.
a good fit and we can work. So I love that.
Yes. Yeah,
Sorry, I
I'm
didn't
not
mean to
gonna take
interrupt
your
you.
money. No, you're fine. I'm not gonna take your money if I don't think that I can help you, but I am connected to a global network of healers. So if I don't have something that you're looking for, I know, a bunch of other people who could potentially help out. But so the first step is always an interview, just to kind of figure out where they're at, what they're looking for. I am actually getting ready to it's December, the week of December 1st. I'm gonna be doing what I refer to as a 5-day challenge. And leading up to that, it's on my website, so zarawellness.net/free challenge. If somebody wanted to sign up for that, they could, and once they sign up for that, they have an opportunity to book a call with me. Once they book that call, then we talk about what they're dealing with, what they're going on, what's going on with them. And then the challenge is just it's 5 days. I have a Facebook group that they can join with a few other people in the community, and also working towards the same goals. And and then from
It's
there,
the
we just
first week of December.
yes, December 1st through the 5th.
Ooh.
So and I'll
Right
share the
before
link to
you
that with
drink all
you.
that eggnog, first have that 5-day
Right.
challenge.
And that just, I share some of my favorite tips and things like that in there. And then from that point, if after that first call people want to move forward, we can talk a little bit more about what that looks like. But yeah, so I have my Instagram, and I actually I am trying. Social media has always been a challenge for me. I actually just posted something about it today. I had closed my business social media account and started using my personal social media account, and then I stopped posting because it didn't feel right. And so I'm actually moving back to my business social media account, which hasn't been posted or updated to for probably almost a year. But people can reach out to me there. I have email, or my website also has information. They can find me there.
Yay, I love that. Okay, so after every interview, we like to do a little rapid fire. So I'm going to
Okay.
ask you rapid fire questions and answer the first thing that comes to mind. And let's be honest, we all know that rapid fire usually isn't rapid fire. I usually go, "Ooh, that's interesting," and then we stop and talk about it. So let's get to it. Coffee or tea?
Coffee. I used to drink tea. I've moved on to coffee, but now I drink decaf.
I love it. Favorite comfort food?
Oh. Um, I make my own yogurt.
Ooh.
It's L. reuteri is the bacterial strain, and
Mm-hmm.
that has been probably my favorite thing to eat for the last since I started making it.
Yum. I've always wanted to get into that.
It's very fun.
Uh, is I've heard it's pretty easy.
Yeah, so, the one that I do has to be cooked at a certain temperature, but I have a pressure cooker that cooks on a sous vide, so it's gotta be 99 degrees, and so I just sous vide it. It's 36 hours of cook time. It's not as easy as
Oh
just
my
regular
goodness.
yogurt,
Right.
but it is so worth it, and it's so good for your gut.
Oh, see? I remember my mom had, like, it was gold on the bottom, and it had, like, a little cooker thing, and it had, like, the little jars you put in there, and she'd
Mhm.
make her own our yogurt when we were a kid. I loved it. And I don't have a maker, but I'm gonna try it. Okay, one thing that instantly calms your nervous system.
Breathing, when I remember to actually breathe.
Yeah. A song that lifts your mood when you are low.
Um, honestly, I'm a little bit embarrassed to say this. I typically listen to Christian music, worship music, things like that. My kids have been listening to the song Golden by Huntrix from that movie K-pop Demon Hunters.
No.
And I am mortified to say that that song pumps me all of the way up. It is such a positive message. It's so far removed from what I usually listen to, and I can't believe that that's the answer that I'm giving you right now. But they've been so I split custody with my boys, and they've been here for a week now. And every single morning, my 15-year-old wakes up and puts that song on, and so it just starts our day in a positive. And so it's just kind of been it's been that. But I actually let me sidebar that a little bit. Um, I like I said, I listen to a lot of Christian and worship music. Steph Schlater, I think is how you pronounce his name, has a song called "Turn It to Praise," and it's essentially like, it doesn't matter what negative thing gets thrown at me, you're going to turn it around for my good, and that is like all the glory to the Father. Like 100%. That is my mantra, and the stupid Huntrix song is just the sidebar when I have my kids. Oh god, I can't believe I said that.
I love it. Okay, favorite way to move your body, gentle or powerful?
Ugh, both. Depends on the day, depends on where I am in my cycle. Um, I love a good walk. Um, I also really enjoy, like, going to the gym and just, I prefer the machines over free weights. I really enjoy lifting heavy things. Uh, Heavy relative to me, definitely not as heavy as some.
Right. Yeah, you're not in any competition or anything like that.
No.
So, something that you wish more moms would say out loud.
Oh gosh. I'm not broken. I'm not a failure. I am
Yeah.
okay. I am enough. I am a good mother. I love myself.
Yep.
That was a lot more than one. I'm sorry.
It's coming like you speak those words, they're coming right back at you. If you could go back and hug your younger mom self, what would you tell her?
Oh, mama, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. You're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
You're still figuring it out, but you're going to figure this out and it's going to be okay.
Yeah. What does being unshackled mean to you?
Oh, the freedom to be authentic and be unashamed of who I am, what I believe, and what I do.
I love that. So, if healing had a flavor, what would it taste like?
Hmm. I think probably like an umami sort of flavor. Like I want to say sweet,
Mhm.
but like deeper than that, and not too sweet because sometimes sweet is too sweet. But maybe like a savory. Yeah, I would say savory.
Ooh, I love that. Okay, a food that you once loved, but you now have broken up with.
Oh gosh, all of them. Oreos probably is number one. I
Yeah,
definitely Oreos.
I love a good Oreo, not gonna
I do
lie,
too.
but I don't eat
I
them
miss
very
them
often.
sometimes, but I've replaced those with, they have, like, I shop at Kroger a lot, and they have, they're white on one, or they're light on one side and dark on the other, and they're essentially Oreos. They're just smaller and the package is smaller, so instead of eating a whole package, and they're also more expensive, so I savor them, so I'll only eat a couple at a time, whereas I would throw down an entire pack of Oreos without without even
I
blinking.
have noticed though that Oreos do not taste the same because
Mm,
I have the more healthy I eat, the more chemically it tastes.
for sure. And that's something
If
I maybe
I
it's a
do
good
what
thing
you
I
said
haven't
and
had
I
them.
like stop and taste it, half the time I go, "Ooh, Oreo," open it, scrape it, eat it, good. But if I
Yeah.
really taste it, it does not taste as good anymore.
Yeah, it's so interesting how that works.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, wait, my body actually has a mechanism to tell me that this is not the best thing for me? Oh, okay. Thank you so much for being here today.
Of course.
Those who are listening, look for the email contact links in the description. Don't forget to hit subscribe and like, and we will talk to you next time.